Okay, good morning, everybody. This is my post for the Culture Proof. The Culture Proof is a blog. It's PG-13, as you know. And after yesterday's sort of like FTC announcement that VTech Toys got dinged for corporal infraction targeting kids, now you know why. It's so important to stress that it is PG-13. I do not want your information. If you are younger than 13 years old, and what information might you give? Well, if you want to sign up for updates on my blog and stuff. So today's topic, human trafficking, a new path disrupting markets. You know, the funny thing with human trafficking is that too often the general public will focus on the psychological deficiency of the victim. You know, as if it's some kind of deep-rooted, uh, um, deep-rooted bottomless hole. When in fact, actually, the psychological needs of the victims, the psychological motivations and drivers are not very deep-rooted at all. And they're not very deep at all. You know, they could be materialism, as we saw today, what I shared today with the problem with love and loneliness. Um, uh, uh, they're not, these issues aren't deep, but they might be pressing. And especially if you're young and you're not economically independent, you don't have a lot of work skills. Um, these sort of like deficiencies in your life might seem like an ocean, whereas for an adult, with a credit card, with a regular job, regular income, buying a car, buying a house, buying a dress is no big deal. But for a young person, these sort of like pressing matters would seem insurmountable, like a vast ocean. But really, that they are not deep, dark psychological deficiencies. You know what I mean? They might seem vast, but to an adult with a job, they're nothing. So the general public is always obsessing over these sort of like mysterious psychological urges of the victim. In fact, what we ought to be focusing on is disrupting the market for human trafficked victims. There's the marketplace. There's a demand for flesh, people, and then there's a supply of money willing to pay for flesh and people. So once again, I got to reiterate, the psychological motivations aren't deep or dark. I mean, for a kid, a house or a fancy car or fancy dress might seem like an ocean. But for a working person, it's nothing, especially if you got a credit card. So there, these drivers of like love and problems, the problem with love and how to cure loneliness, they are not deep psychological problems. Okay. So the market for human traffic victims really is a supply of money and a demand, a supply of money and a supply of like flesh, right? And sometimes they might kidnap the victims. Sometimes they might abuse the victims, lure them, but there is a supply of flesh. Somehow they acquire the flesh, and then there's a supply of money that comes together in like hotels or over the internet. What you gotta do is disrupt that market. The supply of money, you gotta say is like unethical, immoral, stupid, right? And then the supply of flesh, the people who pimp them and lure them are criminals, right? Are like despicable, right? So you got to disrupt that market, because just focusing on these deep, dark psychological motivators, like they're just materialistic wants, and like maybe loneliness. As people, we all experience like life through differently. You know, some people care more about pretty dresses than others. Some people get lonelier than others, but these aren't deep, dark psychological stuff. They're just materialistic, shallow stuff. You know what I'm saying? You understand? So you got to focus on disrupting the market. The people with a supply of money for flesh, you know, are no good. And the people who pimp them and lure them are no good. So that's to me is how to sort of like disrupt this market for human trade, human trafficking, you know? Otherwise, the more psychological motivations of victims at the time, some, you know, for some people, these urges, these needs might be more pressing, might be even impossible to fulfill on their own. Because maybe they're children, they're young, they're minors, maybe they're poor, maybe they don't have any work skills, you know. So forget about that bullshit. To me, psychological motivators are like so like kind of bullshit, right? Because people experience life differently, right? There's no excuse, right? Just lock them up, just keep tabs on them. You know what I mean? It's really the market nobody really focuses on. You know, the people who pay for it get a pass. The people who abuse them, the pimps, get a pass. Meanwhile, you're wondering what the fuck is wrong with your stupid kid. There's really nothing wrong with your stupid kid, except there's an adult, a grown man willing to pay for sleeping with your kid, and a grown man willing to beat up your kid. Okay? What can I say to you people? You don't like me? What can I say to you people? Okay, so that's today's post for the culture crew. Okay? So, as I said a couple days earlier, we're going to take Hollywood into the abyss of all this. If you don't like me, enjoy 2018, what it's going to turn out like. Now you know.